All right, so I've got a really special speakdom for you guys today. This is a very special one because this is one that I'm very passionate about. I actually took some notes for this, and it's also one that is so important that I may do individual videos on each of these bullet points. I'm going to give you 5 lies that you've been told. 5 lies that the media tells you, that your parents may have told you, that your friends and family may have told you, things of that nature. I'm going to go through 5. Now, there's way more, but these are 5 that I think are a good starting point and a good launch pad because once we get through talking about these 5, I think in the future I may do 5 more because there's a lot of them. Some of them might be a bit controversial, but and it's funny because one of the bullet points is actually about what I'm about to say, which is hopefully you'll appreciate what I'm trying to say and understand me as clearly as possible. So we're going to go through 5 lies you've been told in your life that are actually not true. We're going to start with number 1 right now, and that is some people don't fail, or some people are really lucky. Now, this one, I think you're going to hear the second one more. They're both linked, though. Whenever you hear somebody say, like, look at that guy on TV, he's lucky. Look at that politician. Look at that singer. Look at this guy. Oh, look at that fat guy with the hot girl. Look at that old guy with the hot girl. Why is that guy driving a Porsche? That is really, that sort of, some people get lucky or some people don't fail. Whenever you hear things like that, it's usually from people who either have failed or don't know how not to fail. Now, we all do this to a degree. And the thing about these 5 points is that I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. We all have made these mistakes before. And some of us will again. The key is, and like I talked about this in the winning mentality versus losing mentality speakdom, the key is that if we acknowledge and have self-awareness of us making these mistakes, we can then lessen the amount of times we make them. But I want to talk about this. Some people don't fail. Every single successful person in the history of this planet has failed at one point or another at something. Or they have failed many times on the way to the top. Nobody lives a perfect life. I don't care if you're born into wealth. I don't care if you're born into poverty. Nobody lives a perfect life. Even if you are a silver spoon baby with millions upon millions of dollars inherited to you from your parents, you're going to have problems. You're going to have perhaps different problems than the problems that poor people have, but you're going to have problems and you're going to fail. You are going to fail. You could be a straight A student, but if a straight A student takes enough classes, will they still be a straight A student? Can a person actually go into a master's degree program and master more than just a couple of things? It's very hard, y'all. There is nobody walking this planet who is a professional at everything. It's impossible. So if you can find someone who's good, who can simultaneously be a surgeon, a lawyer, a theologist, a historian, and a chef, and can do all 5 of those things, like, at a tippy top level compared to others in that same field, I'm going to call you a liar because it's impossible. If you're a scientist, but you're also into, let's say, skateboarding, and you're a really good skateboarder, that's great. Are you going to be as good of a scientist as Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example? Maybe. But are you also going to be as good as Tony Hawk? That's really tough. Imagine that multiplied by more. So I'm trying to tell you this because some of you guys may have been lied in life and told, well, this guy got lucky, that guy got lucky. There's always a semblance of luck because life oftentimes does open the door and gives you opportunities. However, there's a lot of times in life, and you never hear these stories. You only hear about those who make it. You don't really hear these stories. Because people who fail don't like to talk about their failures. Most human beings do not have the self-awareness and the maturity to publicly admit their failures. So you're going to hear about shit like, oh, well, God opened up a door in my life and I walked through it and now I'm a millionaire, right? You're going to hear that. But you're not going to hear, oh, well, God opened up a door in my life, but I chose to ignore that door. You're not going to hear that as much. You're not going to hear that from your friend circle because people don't like to be responsible for themselves and don't ever look within to see, okay, how could I have changed that outcome? You're going to hear that type of stuff from older people who have done the work, who have experience and intellect. You're not going to hear that, and wisdom. You're not going to hear that from somebody who hasn't really lived life or who has so much internal struggles and an ego that they can't straight up admit to themselves, okay, I could have handled this better. I think we all kind of grow at a different rate, but unfortunately some grow faster than others. So I'll get back to this topic in a separate speakdom and go more into detail. Number 2, of the 5 lies you've been told, they'll understand. This is one of the biggest ones. Now, what do I mean by they'll understand? Listen to me. People do not think like you do. I'm going to say it again. People do not think like you do. People who you consider close friends, people who you consider even people you've dated, especially if they're of the opposite sex, people who you think you know or who you can read, people do not think like you do. So whenever you are in a situation where you're trying to figure something out about a person and you're thinking about the way you would think about things, that's the first mistake. And this is why we have so much so much infighting right now on the internet. This is why we have the two sides of the aisle politically so far apart now that it's almost become like a daily back and forth verbal war. Like, this is why, because it's not just people, people don't think like me, but they should. And that's just pure ego. And that goes back to kind of being centered and growing and understanding that they'll understand, which means they might not understand. They might not understand what you are saying. They might not be ready to take the information. The ironic thing about it is some of you listening to this right now might not be ready for this. Not because you don't want to listen, but because you're not in the right frame of mind. And that's not your fault. I'm not faulting you for that. I understand that life is hard. It is. It's a lot harder than people realize, which I should be one of the ones on here, yo. You know what I mean? But I get it, bro. I'm not going to come down on you for it, but I can never assume somebody understands, which is why I've done a lot of work on making sure that the way I speak is as clear as possible and makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't mean they're going to understand or interpret the information the same. You guys might have had a relationship with a girl and you might have thought in your head, man, we did all these great things together. We did all of these amazing things. Why did it end? Why doesn't she appreciate it? Because she might be in a totally different frame of mind than you. She might have been soured on you. There may be influence from her friends. Also, moments that you think are important might not be important to her. And there's also perception versus reality. Go watch a movie called 500 Days of Summer. And if you ever wonder about what a guy goes through during a breakup, and oftentimes guys who are inexperienced, because I can relate to this movie, yo. I've been here. They see a relationship from these rose-colored glasses, foggy vision, beer goggles, if you will. And when you remove that and you really do some thinking and you talk to a lot of smart people, it opens up what really happened, or it can give you some possibilities. Same thing when a friendship falls apart. Same thing with anything. People do not think like you do. Number 3. Now this one, again, the irony is because some of you guys are probably, this next one, it might not apply to some of you guys. This next one, this of the 5 lies you've been told, people appreciate the truth. Nonsense, my friend. That is nonsense. Do some people appreciate the truth? Yes. Does anybody like being lied to? Probably not, but subconsciously we do. And this is going to deserve its own video. Subconsciously, every human being has a set degree of bias and has an ego to protect them from the outside world. Most people don't want the truth. Most people want to be validated. I'm going to say that one again. Most people do not appreciate the truth. Most people would rather be validated. When you go on the internet and you look up reviews for movies, think about this, y'all. Do an exercise. Are you looking for somebody to have a review that agrees with yours? Or are you looking to have one that tells you the truth? When you go online and you look up reviews, thoughts, different YouTubers or just different opinions. Like it could be in Reddit, it could be in Facebook. You're in, groups of, different fandoms, right? Do you really want the truth or do you want to be validated? There's a thing about human beings called validation, the need for validation, which is pretty much the entire existence of social media. The truth about social media is that that's what it is. It's an advertising vehicle, but also a very easy way for validation. But also, human beings have this thing called confirmation bias. And the thing is, everybody has this. Everybody has it at different degrees. And with confirmation bias, it's really dangerous to be around people who have so much confirmation bias that it's unrealistic or unhealthy. Those are the kind of people you should keep away from you at arm's length or more. You understand what I'm saying? Because those people, whether they be people on the far left or the far right or the far this way, the far that way. When I say far, I mean all the way to where their political opinion or their opinion about something has rotted their brain to where it doesn't make logical sense. The extremists, the super extremists, like the people who follow a religion but then contradict it, which most human beings do. But if we really think about it, right, like, the Islamic terrorists that have done terrorist attacks or whatever, are they really Muslims if the Quran preaches peace? You see what I'm saying? Like the same thing with Christians. You have Christians, you have the KKK. That's KKK and Westboro Baptist Church. That's not all Christians, but that's what happens when confirmation bias consumes your logic. But we all have it. So once again, people appreciate the truth. Now, am I telling you to lie to people? No, I am not telling you to lie to people. But sometimes the cold, hard truth, because I don't lie. I'm not a very good liar. But sometimes the cold, hard truth is not something that someone else is ready to hear or that they want to hear. If one of my friends goes through a breakup and I watch the relationship and I point out every mistake that he made that drove her away. Because remember, guys, like point number 2, people don't think like you do. You're caught up in shit. Your friend might have a totally different view and might never tell you because he doesn't want to hurt your feelings and he doesn't want to cause an argument or a fight. So I could be there and I could tell my friend, like, hey, man, I knew this was going to happen. Here's why. But most of the time we don't because for 2 reasons. 1, we don't want to start an argument or a fight, which I mentioned. And number 2, because they might not be ready to hear the information and they may end up not feeling right. And it can mess with their anxiety, right? You don't have to lie to people, but don't give away too much about yourself to people who you don't trust. Understand? That's a whole other topic, but it's one that should be noted. Note that one. Number 4, this is a big one. You must go get an education and make something of yourself. Now, what this typically means is that you should go to college and become a doctor or a lawyer. I have done several SPEAKDOMs discussing the fact that there's different roads to the top. What if you don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer? What if you don't want to go to college? What if you do not want an associate's degree? What if instead you want to get into IT, but you don't want an associate's degree? Well, guess what? There's also certifications where you can take tests on your own, study for them, and pass them. You can also set up training modules, boot camps. There's a million different ways to learn a skill, right? You don't have to go to college. You don't have to go to trade school. You can do either one, or you can do none, or you can be an entrepreneur, start a business, What are you passionate about? How can you make money at it? Find something you are passionate about and make money at it. I have said this a million times. But this idea that you must get an education and make something of yourself, I am not saying that I'm okay with slackers because I can't stand them. Please, that is not what I'm saying. When I say you must go get an education and make something of yourself, I'm talking about specifically that you have to go to college to become a success. That is false. That is, and I went to college. That's false. There are so many ways you can live a happy, productive life without ever stepping foot into a dorm. Everyone has a different road, man. Everyone has a different road. So even though your parents might want you to get an education, I want you guys to get an education, but some of you guys don't care. Some of you guys would rather go to tech school or go to music school or something, even like, hell, some of you guys just study something by reading a book and pass tests like nothing. Like, people are different, yo. And some of you want to be teachers. Like, everyone has their own path in life, but that's what I'm saying. You don't have to go to college necessarily to find that path. The last one. Now, this is going to be the most controversial one. You need to listen to what I am saying because this is a deep topic. And if you're very sensitive to this is going to rub you the wrong way. But it's the cold, hard truth about life. The best thing you can do about life is just try to accept it and navigate through it. And please listen to everything I say before, passing judgment on what I'm about to say. So the fifth lie that you've been told in your life is, we are all equal and should be treated as such. Let me explain what I mean by that. Do I think that everybody deserves equal rights? Yes. However, other parts of the world, even people in the same neighborhood as you, might not agree with that. So if your perspective is that, once again, go back to number 2, people think like you do. If your perspective is that you want everything to be equal, it's not. The reality is it's not. Some people are born in third world countries and their method of surviving is scraping and scrounging for food or hunting it themselves. People still live like this, guys, in the real world. We still have hunter-gatherer tribes in the world right now. We didn't just evolve from cavemen. Everybody works in towers now and big buildings. No, guys, there are people out there who are born to less conditions than you are. You could be born a silver spoon baby from a wealthy family. What happens if you have siblings? Do you really think that your parents are going to divide the wealth equally among the siblings? Okay, what if you do think that? What if the siblings disagree? See what I'm saying? They might not see it the way you do. And that goes back to people don't think like you do, which is, again, these all tie together. Let me explain what I mean by we are all equal and should be treated as such. I treat everyone with respect. I treat everyone with respect, or at least I try to. But I'm also a human who sometimes has bad days and sometimes is not really in a good mood. Understand? I've admitted that. But should I treat everyone equally? Well, that's not how it works, and nobody really does that. Do you treat a stripper that you pay money to on OnlyFans the same as you would a wife that bears your children? No. Do you treat all of your friends equally? If one of your friends asks you for $100 and the other one also asks you for it and you can only let one borrow it, wouldn't you eventually pick one? Or would you just say, would you just not let them borrow anything? But then you're kind of like, well, you can't help them. People aren't equal. They're just not. This idea of right now, if you don't believe me, right now, sit down and think about your 3 best friends. Who are your 3 best friends? And explain to me what makes them different than your other friends. Write it down. Explain it to yourself, right? Again, you can't treat your friends like your best friends, like your homies, like your business partners, okay? That's what I'm trying to say with this. But also, this idea that life is fair, which obviously you guys know life is not fair. Life is not fair. Life gives people opportunities, but you're going to get different opportunities And you may not even know it's an opportunity. You never know. You might never know. You may literally die not knowing. And it might not even be your fault. That's when you really start thinking about like the third dimension. When you start breaking out of this like, this cocoon of just social media and even YouTube, even being here with me, like when you break out of this, start to really think about the world and life. No, we're not freaking equal. We're not. You have people who work really hard, who work their asses off to get a career and work really hard, and then you have people who cheat the system, who mooch off of others, who are lazy fucks, who steal, who rob. If we were all equal, we would all be doing the exact same thing, and we're not. And are you going to treat your neighbor? Are you going to treat your neighbor who worked his ass off to buy his home the same as you would a cousin who breaks into your home to steal from you? You can't. It's survival instincts. Survival instincts and Mother Nature guarantee that we are not equal. It's a recurring thing in Mother Nature. Sharks eat smaller fish. Mammals eat other mammals. It's survival of the fittest. And how do you become the fittest? The first thing you do, take accountability for your mistakes and do some introspection. The second thing you do is you light a fire under your own ass to go make a difference. So no, we're not all equal. We should be treated equally as far as respect goes. But do you really think that I'm going to show respect to my enemies? Do you really think I'm going to allow people back into my life who have shown me that they are not worthy of being in my life? Of course not. And thus, they lost that privilege. This is how you should think about your life and how you should think about, your friendships and relationships and people. The unfortunate thing is some people are born and get more breaks than others. Some people are not. The mistake you don't want to make, though, is bitch about it. If you're not given a good hand, you freaking go get your own hand. If you're not given a fair shake, you go and you make the shake more fair for you by working harder than the next guy. That's what being a real, self-actualized alpha female or alpha male does. You go out there and you prove that you're the shit, and you prove it time and time again, and you prove that you have the ability to overcome obstacles and that you are not like the ones who have failed. This whole everyone get the trophy shit is bullshit. No, we're not all equal. Sports, there is a winner and there is a loser. In the NFL, one team wins the Super Bowl. Well, that's okay because so-and-so had a winning season. No, they did not have a winning season. Did they get more wins than losses? Sure, but they didn't win. And that could be for various reasons. Bad coaching, injuries, bad motivation, illnesses. There's a lot of reasons as to why these things happen. But the bottom line is, because of that, I think that, yes, there should be equality among all of us. But the unfortunate truth is that there's not. So the only thing that you can do is do your best to survive for yourself and those who you love. Hopefully you understood where I was coming from. I'm putting an end to this video now. I will revisit these 5 in the future because they should be discussed in a bit more detail. And I may even read some of your comments from this video about which of these 5 you think is like the most important to you or which one hits you the most. Take care. See you soon.